There is a specific kind of person who will drop everything for you. Who will sit with you in your worst moment, say exactly the right thing, and mean every word of it. Who sees the best in everyone they meet. Who forgives easily, judges slowly, and makes space for people in a way most people never experience. And then goes home, closes the door, and absolutely tears themselves apart. That person might be you. And if it is, I need you to stay for this. Not because this video will hand you a magic fix. But because there is something underneath that contradiction that most people never see clearly. A pattern that has been running in the background of your life for a very long time. And the moment you can see it, really see it, something begins to loosen. Let me show you what this actually looks like. Someone you love calls you in a panic. They made a mistake, something embarrassing, something they can't stop replaying. And you show up for them completely. You remind them that one bad moment does not define them, that they are not their worst day. You've seen who they are, and it's so much more than this. And you believe every word you say to them. Then something similar happens to you. And the version of you that just sat with your friend? Gone. What shows up instead is something darker. Something that sounds less like a friend and more like a judge. Cataloging every detail of what went wrong. Replaying it, dissecting it, applying a level of harsh precision you would never turn on someone you love. Researcher Dr. Kristin Neff at the University of Texas has spent years studying this exact split. And what she found is almost absurd once you hear it. People consistently offer more grace to complete strangers they have never met than they offer to themselves. Not to friends, not to family. Strangers. So you already know, on some level, that you are operating with two completely different rulebooks. One for the rest of the world, and one for you. The one for the world is generous. The one for you is relentless. The question is, why? Why is it so natural for you to hold other people gently and hold yourself like your evidence? Here is what most people get wrong about this. They assume kind people are happy people, that warmth and self-confidence travel together. That if you love others well, you must love yourself too. But for a lot of people, maybe you, kindness did not start as a virtue. It started as a survival strategy. Think back. Think about what it felt like to grow up in a home where the emotional temperature could shift without warning. Where love felt like it had fine print. Where the safest version of any given day was to be easy, to be agreeable. A child in that environment learns something fast. If I keep everyone comfortable, nothing bad happens. This is not something they think through. This is something the body learns before the mind has words for it. Psychologist Pete Walker coined a term for this, the Fawn response. You've heard of fight, flight, freeze, but Fawn is the fourth one. It's what happens when a child realizes that the safest way through danger is not to fight it or flee it, it's to appease it. To become so easy, so helpful, so warm, that there's no reason for anyone to hurt you. And here is the thing that cuts deepest about that. Your kindness was not fake. It was never a performance. It was protection, and over time, protection became something you actually believed in. You took a survival tool and turned it into a genuine part of who you are. That is not a flaw. That is one of the most quietly remarkable things about you. But there's a cost that comes with it. Psychologist Dr. Gabor Maté writes about what he calls the tension between authenticity and attachment. When being fully yourself felt risky, you made a quiet trade. You offered the world a version of you that was easy to love, and in return, you hoped the world would keep you safe. And most of the time, it worked. People liked you, people relied on you, people valued you. But underneath that, there was always something else, a hope that was never quite spoken out loud. That if you showed up reliably enough, if you were useful and warm enough, maybe someone would finally show up for you in the same way. You became the person everyone calls, the one who holds things together. But in the quietest moments, the ones you don't tell anyone about, you wonder why the phone doesn't ring for you the same way. Researchers who study this pattern have found it creates a very specific kind of exhaustion. Not the exhaustion of doing too much, but the exhaustion of giving consistently without receiving. That ache is not neediness, and it's not weakness. It's the echo of a trade that was never quite fair. Now I want to ask you something that might sting a little. When someone genuinely compliments you, what actually happens inside? Because for most people who carry this pattern, it doesn't land cleanly. Instead, something subtle happens, a kind of static, a quiet voice scanning for every reason why the compliment couldn't be accurate. Maybe they're being polite. Maybe they don't know you well enough yet. Here's what's actually going on beneath that. Neuroscientists call it negativity bias, the brain's tendency to trust threatening information faster than positive information. But in people who learned early on that they were somehow the problem, the bias gets personal. The brain specifically, efficiently finds evidence that you are what you always feared you were. Not because you're broken. Because your brain is doing exactly what brains are designed to do, confirming the patterns it has rehearsed the longest. And the painful irony is this, the critical voice feels more credible than the kind one. Not because it's more accurate, but because it's older. If praise makes you uncomfortable, that is not proof that you are unlovable. It is simply proof that your nervous system has not yet learned to trust love as something stable. That can change. It genuinely can. But only if you understand why it's happening. There's something else that nobody talks about. You can be completely surrounded by people who like you and still feel, underneath it all, completely unknown. Because here's what happens when you spend years being agreeable, smoothing yourself out to fit whatever the room needs. People get comfortable with that version of you. They love the person who's always steady, always giving, always fine. They stop asking what you actually need. Not because they don't care, but because you have been so precise, for so long, at making it seem like everything is okay. Research from UCLA on social connection found something that cuts right to the heart of this. Being valued for what you do and being valued for who you are produce entirely different emotional experiences. When people love you for your usefulness, there is always a quiet hum of anxiety underneath it, because useful can be replaced. And maybe that's the most exhausting part of all. Not the giving, not the caretaking, but the feeling of being surrounded by people and still not being found. I want to pause here. Because if at any point during this video you felt something tighten in your chest, a little exposed, maybe even a little weak, I need you to notice what just happened. That feeling, right there, that's the pattern doing what it always does. The fact that understanding yourself might make you feel worse about yourself is not a coincidence. That's the exact mechanism we've been talking about this whole time. The voice that says you shouldn't need this video, that this is self-indulgent or dramatic, that voice is not the truth. That's the pattern, trying to keep you small. Here's what I want you to hold on to. Patterns lose their grip the moment you can name them. You don't have to fix this overnight. You don't have to go to war with who you've been. You just have to learn to create a small gap, a breath of distance between you and the voice. Enough to look at it and say, that's the pattern talking, not me. Somewhere along the way, you learned that being hard on yourself was responsible, that self-criticism was how you stayed sharp and safe. But self-criticism is not a discipline. It is a wound pretending to be a work ethic. The kindness you give so freely to others, you were never taught to give it to yourself. That's not a moral failure. It's an omission, a gap in what you were shown. And gaps can be filled. The fact that you can extend that much warmth to strangers, to people who haven't earned it, tells you something important. The capacity is there. It has always been there. You just learned, very early, that it wasn't for you. That was wrong. You are not a person who exists to make other people comfortable while quietly falling apart on the inside. That was a role, a strategy, a way of surviving something that should never have required surviving in the first place. And recognizing that, sitting with it even if it feels strange, is not weakness. That is the beginning of something. Not a transformation that happens overnight, not a dramatic before and after. Just a small, quiet shift. The kind where you start to notice the voice a little faster. Where you catch yourself offering less grace to yourself than you'd give a stranger, and you pause on that instead of letting it pass. Where you let someone's compliment sit in the room for a moment before your brain goes looking for reasons to return it. That's the work. Not loud, not perfect, just more honest than before. You have spent so long being someone the world could lean on. It might be time to ask yourself, gently, with the same curiosity you'd bring to someone you love. Who are you when you're not being useful? What do you actually need? And what would it feel like to treat yourself like someone worth knowing, not just someone worth keeping around? You don't have to answer that today. But I hope you let yourself sit with it. Because that question, that gentle, uncomfortable question, might be the most important one you've avoided asking for a very long time. If this reached something in you, share it with someone you think might need to hear it. And if there's something you're quietly carrying that you'd like me to make a video about, drop it in the comments. I'll catch you in the next one.
Like to learn more about human psychology? Like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe my channel now. Thank you for watching.